Here is the punctuated version of your script. Stand in the back, family gets front row. My dad said, it is $10,800 retirement party. My sister smirked. You're lucky we even took a photo with you. Everyone laughed. The slideshow skipped me the lake house I spent $58,000 renovating. Gifted Delina midcake. I smirked. Fitting. That night, I froze. The utilities pulled my name from the deed and mailed one envelope to the HOA. Stand in the back, family gets front row. Dad barked, adjusting his cuff links like he was some king. I froze for a second. The photographer glanced at me awkwardly, then motioned me to step aside. My sister Lena smirked. I was glinting like she'd just won some invisible prize. You're lucky we even took a photo with you, she whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. The room erupted in shallow laughter, not real laughter, but that thin, brittle kind people used to feel superior. The slideshow rolled on the massive projector screen behind us. Dad's life and highlights, childhood photos, old trophies, pictures of him and Lena at charity galas, vacations, the lake house by Piner Ridge, the very same lake house I poured $58,000 into renovating last year. Every photo carefully curated and not a single one with me in it. I stood there stiff, breathing slow so no one could see my chest heaving under my dress shirt. Not now, not here. The waiter passed around the second round of champagne. Dad was halfway through his speech, thanking his wonderful family for organizing his $10,800 retirement party, paid for as usual by me, though you'd never know it by listening to him. Lena, of course, you've been my rock, Dad gushed, raising his glass toward her. You've handled everything so perfectly. Couldn't have done this without you. I clenched my jaw so tight it clicked. My stomach twisted, but I forced a smile, the same one I learned to wear at every family event, the same one that said, I know my place. Then came the gut punch. Oh, and before we forget, I almost let this slip. Dad chuckled as he pulled out a small envelope and handed it to Lena like he was presenting her with a royal decree. The lake house is officially yours now, sweetheart. It's under your name, fully transferred. The applause that followed was deafening. My ears rang as Lena squealed and hugged Dad, burying her perfectly manicured nails into his expensive suit. I blinked a few times, locking my knees to keep from staggering. The lake house, the one I refinanced my own home to help restore, the one I rebuilt the deck for, the one I stayed up nights researching contractors and materials for, the one they always said we were preserving for the family. Fitting, I whispered. To no one, letting the word escape like bitter steam. I could feel Dad's eyes on me for half a second, but he turned away fast, like I was a ghost already forgotten. That night, when the party was over and the fake smiles faded, I made my move. By 2:00 a.m., I had logged into the utility accounts for the lake house, accounts that were still legally in my name. I froze the gas, electricity, and water. Next, I logged into the county property records, the quitclaim deed I'd signed last year. It was contingent on pending obligations, a clause no one had bothered to read except me. I filed a resentment, pulling my name from liability and nullifying my guarantee on the property. The final move. One envelope. I sealed a thick stack of papers, copies of the frozen accounts, the resentment notice, and a formal letter addressed to the HOA notifying them that all further fees and maintenance would no longer involve me. I slipped it into the outgoing mail and finally, I slept. I wasn't always invisible. At least, I don't think I was. Growing up, I did what every good son was supposed to do. Work hard, stay quiet, sacrifice. I was the fixer, the one who held everything together while Dad chased his promotions, while Mom courted her charity luncheons, and while Lena existed to be adored. Family helps family, Dad used to say. But in our family, that always meant I helped them. The first time I bailed them out, I was 24. Dad's business partner had siphoned funds. Bankruptcy loomed. I took out a personal loan for $20,000, wiped out most of my savings. It's just temporary, son, Dad promised. We'll make it right. They never paid me back. Then came Lena's law school, top private university, naturally. Tuition, books, off-campus apartment, the whole package. And when her financial aid didn't cover everything, guess who stepped in? You know how fragile Lena gets under pressure. Mom would whisper like it was a sacred mantra. She just needs stability. I co-signed her loans, paid some of her rent when she fell behind, covered her car payments for 2 years quietly, consistently, and when she graduated, when Lena finally passed the bar, they threw her a massive party. At that same country club, the one where they held Dad's retirement gala. $15,000. Open bar. Live jazz band. I footed half the bill. And no one even thought to toast me. But it wasn't just the money. It was the hierarchy, the unspoken rule that I was useful but never quite enough. Holidays? Lena's preferences came first. Vacations? Lena picked the destinations. Even birthdays became a competition. One year, Dad actually forgot mine entirely because Lena had just gotten engaged to Ethan, the trust fund fianc with the permanent smug smile. You understand, right? Mom had said, voice sticky sweet. It's just been so busy planning the engagement, right? Of course, planning. And I swallowed it over and over. The lake house was supposed to be different. When the roof caved in during that brutal winter storm 3 years ago, they were going to sell it. We just can't afford to keep it up anymore. Dad sighed, shaking his head over a stack of repair estimates. Unless I stepped in. So I did. I negotiated contractors, handled permits, paid $58,000 out of my pocket. I took weekends off work to drive up, hammer nails, haul lumber, install insulation myself. It became my project, my sanctuary. We'll make this a family legacy, Dad promised, for all of us. But I should have known better. The cracks grew wider last year when Dad started talking about his retirement. You know, he told me over drinks one night, Lena's done so much. So selfless, so driven. She reminds me of myself, honestly. I just nodded, my teeth grinding behind my polite smile. Selfless. Driven? Lena worked 30 hours a week at a boutique law firm that Mom's sorority friend owned. She still used my Netflix account. But challenging Dad was like punching fog. He'd simply wave his hand and change the subject. And Lena? She always knew how to twist the knife. You don't need the lake house like we do. She purred one afternoon, swirling her wine. We're planning to start a family soon. Little ones need nature, you know, right? Nature. And my 58,000. The final blow came last month when Mom cornered me in the kitchen during Sunday brunch. Listen, sweetheart, she began, tone rehearsed. We think it's time for Lena to really settle in. She's done so much for this family. The lake house, it just makes sense for her to take full ownership. I blinked. Full ownership? We're not co-owners. She flinched slightly but recovered. Well, you were always helping us out. You never asked for anything in return. I stared at her, my own mother. The woman whose mortgage I covered after Dad's second failed investment. You're right, I whispered, voice cold and steady. I never did. She patted my arm, mistaking my numbness for surrender. That's what makes you such a blessing, honey. From that moment forward, everything inside me shifted. I wasn't a fixer anymore. I was done being their safety net. I was done being useful. And I was done being invisible. I didn't tell them about the utilities. I didn't mention the deed reversal. I let them walk straight into their own disaster, and sure enough, it didn't take long. 2 weeks after Dad handed Lena the lake house keys like some twisted coronation, my phone rang while I was sipping coffee on my balcony. It was Lena, voice trembling, panicked. Can you explain why there's no heat or water at the lake house? The electrician says the account's frozen, and the HOA just sent me a violation notice about unpaid maintenance fees. What's going on? I smiled into my mug. Oh. That's odd, I said. You should call the new property owner. Not my problem anymore. You are the property owner. She snapped. Your name's still on everything. Not anymore. I cut her off. Check the paperwork. There was a pause, long pregnant. I could practically hear her mind spiraling. You can't do that, she whispered, voice shaking. Already did. Click. I hung up. 3 hours later, the family ambush began. I walked into my parents' house like a soldier entering enemy territory. Mom sat at the head of the dining table, pale and tight-lipped. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, face stormy. Lena was already there, red-faced, flipping through a manila folder of legal documents. Sit, Dad ordered. I stayed standing. Dad's voice was low but dangerous. Explain. Now. I kept my tone measured. I simply exercised my rights. The utilities were always under my name. The deed transfer was conditional. You violated those conditions when you gifted my investment without my consent. So I nullified the agreement. You're sabotaging your own family, Dad hissed. This is petty, vindictive. Lena slammed the folder shut, her composure cracking. You're ruining everything, you selfish person. We have plans. I'm pregnant, for God's sake. I blinked. Of course, the ace up her sleeve. Congratulations, I said flatly. Still doesn't entitle you to steal from me. We didn't steal anything. she shrieked. You never even wanted the lake house. You barely used it. You fixed it up because you offered. Mom finally spoke, voice sugary with thinly veiled guilt. Honey, you've always been so generous. Why are you acting like this now? We're a family. I laughed, sharp, humorless. You're right, I was generous. I paid for your mortgage, Dad's failed business deals, Lena's tuition, her car, her wedding showers. I funded this family like a private ATM for over a decade. And every time, you smiled and patted me on the back like I was some loyal golden retriever. You never had to help, Dad growled. You offered, because you manipulated me into believing I owed it to you. I finally snapped, voice rising. Every favor you needed was packaged as family loyalty. Every sacrifice I made was expected, never appreciated. And when I finally asked for a sliver of respect, you hand the house I built over to your favorite child during your retirement party like it was a door prize. Mom's eyes glistened. But you have a good job, sweetheart. You're doing so well. Your sister needed the house more than you because she never learned to stand on her own feet. I barked. You babied her through everything, and I carried the weight so she wouldn't have to. Lena's voice dropped, venomous. You're just bitter. You've always been jealous of me. Admit it. I stepped forward, close enough to feel the static between us. My voice dropped into a dangerous calm. Jealous of what? The debt? The entitlement? The way you let Mom and Dad rewrite every rule so you never faced a single consequence in your life? No, Lena. I'm not jealous. I'm done. Dad slammed his fist on the table, veins bulging. You're blowing up this family over property? Over some cabin? No, I said, my voice cold and final. I'm ending years of being used and ignored, of being invisible. Silence swallowed the room. And then Mom started crying that theatrical, exaggerated sob she always pulled when things didn't go her way. You're breaking my heart, she whimpered. I never thought you'd turn on us like this. I locked eyes with her. You never thought I'd stop playing my role. Dad stepped forward, trying to regain control. If you walk out that door, don't expect to walk back in. I stared at him. That's the point. I turned and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Lena screaming some garbled insult about betrayal, selfishness, family. I didn't turn back. As I reached for the handle, Dad fired his last shot. You'll regret this. I opened the door, smiled over my shoulder, and said, no, you will. And then I left. For the first few days after I walked out, my phone never stopped buzzing texts, missed calls, voicemails. Some pleading, some angry, some pathetically transparent guilt trips. Please call your mother. You're breaking her heart. Family comes first. We can still fix this. Think about your niece or nephew. You've made your point. Now stop being dramatic. I ignored every single one. Then came phase 2, the flying monkeys. That's what my therapist would later call them. Family, friends, old neighbors, distant relatives all suddenly concerned for my well-being. Your father worked so hard for you. Lena is pregnant. You should be supporting her. It's just a house. Is it worth destroying your family? I wanted to scream, but instead, I smiled, because finally they were scared. For the first time, I wasn't their safety net. By week 2, the narrative shifted again. Dad tried legal threats. He sent a strongly worded letter through some half-rate attorney. Failure to comply with the original verbal agreement may result in legal action for breach of familial obligations. Familial obligations, is that even a real legal term? My lawyer, a very expensive one, by the way, laughed so hard I thought he might fall out of his chair. Let him try, he said. If anything, you've got grounds to sue them for financial exploitation. Lena, meanwhile, cranked up her own campaign. She posted thinly veiled sob stories on Facebook and Instagram. Some people would rather burn bridges than build a family. Pregnant and heartbroken but staying strong. Hashtag family first, hashtag stay mama, hashtag toxic people. The comments flooded in. You're so brave, babe. Your brother will come around. Haters gonna hate. I didn't engage. I didn't need to. The silence was my revenge. Then came the nuclear option. They sent Mom one Sunday morning. She showed up at my apartment uninvited, holding a Tupperware container of her famous casserole like we were still pretending everything was normal. Sweetheart, she said softly, standing in my doorway. Can I come in just for a minute? Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sat at my kitchen table like nothing had happened, smoothing her skirt, smiling that same tight smile she always used before delivering bad news. Look, we all made mistakes, she began. Your father's under a lot of stress. Lena's pregnancy hormones, you know how emotional women can get. I stared at her in disbelief. Even now, excuses? You are always the strong one, honey, she continued. That's why we've leaned on you more. You've been so blessed. You've done so well for yourself. My stomach churned. You mean that's why you used me? I corrected. Her smile froze. I just want us to be a family again, she whispered. Your father's health isn't what it used to be. There it was, the guilt card. The tears welled up perfectly in her eyes, like clockwork. You don't want him to pass with this between you, do you? I exhaled slowly. Funny, I said. I've carried this family on my back for years, paid your bills, saved your house, funded Lena's life, and the one time I say no, I'm the villain. Her lower lip trembled, but I didn't stop. If Dad's health is failing, maybe. You should have thought about that before handing over everything I built to your golden child. That's not fair. It's not fair, I barked, my voice finally breaking. You watched them bleed me dry. You watched Dad humiliate me in front of the entire family at that party, and you said nothing. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I didn't want to lose my family, she whispered. You already did. She sat there in silence, face crumpling. Please, she whispered, we need you. There it was, the truth, not love, need. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. You know where the exit is, I said calmly. She left silently, sobbing into her casserole dish. Whatever she throws, there's still the paternity test, still the house, still the fallout with everyone who's picked a side. I'm not backing down. I'm not playing nice. If you're reading this and thinking, wow, this is a mess, you're right. But sometimes, the only way through is to keep swinging. Part 4 soon. I'm not out yet. Final update. So this is probably the last one I'm posting about this, because honestly I'm just tired, not in a dramatic way, just the regular sort of tired where you wake up and your phone's already going off and you realize it's all still real. Yesterday started weird. Woke up to find my mom had left a loaf of banana bread at my door. She does this when she's worried but doesn't want to talk. Margaret sent me a long thread of texts, half memes, half her ranting about Gianna's family on Facebook. One of Gianna's cousins apparently posted that I ruined Christmas and the family business and tagged me and like 6 other people. I didn't respond, but I saw my cousin Danny defending me in the comments, and then it turned into a whole argument about who paid for the last reunion. Real grown-up stuff. Gianna's parents finally got the foreclosure notice. Her mom called crying, asking how I could do this to innocent people. I told her, you tied your business to me. Not my fault you didn't read the fine print. She hung up. I could hear her dad yelling in the background. Before she did, Gianna's been back and forth between blaming me and trying to guilt me into fixing things for our daughter. She sent me a long message about how no child should have to see their family fall apart. I told her, you should have thought of that before you nuked Christmas dinner. She replied that I was always too cold. That's why she did what she did. She says she needed something real. I told her, you got real. Enjoy it. The paternity test came back today. I got the notification first. Our daughter is mine. I stared at the result for a while, not sure if I felt relief or just nothing. I texted her the screenshot and said, guess you were wrong about at least one thing. She didn't reply. My parents wanted to have a dinner, just us and Margaret. No drama, just pizza and bad reality TV. My daughter was there. She barely talked, just kept playing with her tablet. I don't know if she understands what's going on. She's 5. She just knows things are weird. I told her I love her. She said she loves me too, then asked if she could go back to mom's house soon. I said maybe. Naomi texted me out of nowhere, just said she's out and doesn't want to hear about Peter again. She blocked both him and Jonna on everything. She also said, for what it's worth, I hope you actually keep the house. I told her no promises. Peter hasn't tried to talk to me again. He moved out of his apartment, apparently staying with his brother. Mutual friends are ghosting him, which is honestly more than I expected. A few people texted me saying they didn't want to get involved, which is code for please don't make me pick a side. Whatever. The house is technically still mine, but I'm not keeping it. Too many memories, too many headaches, and honestly, I'm sick of explaining the foreclosure to neighbors. I set up a storage pickup for next week. Gianna texted asking if she could come get her stuff. I said yes, but I'm not going to be there when she does. Margaret offered to swing by and make sure Gianna doesn't take anything that isn't hers. I told her if she wants to deal with that circus, she's welcome to it. Gianna's parents are officially out of the business. The bank took over. They'll probably end up moving. Her mom posted some long rant about betrayal in the family, but didn't mention names. My mom said, just block them all and move on. But I haven't. I like seeing them scramble. There was one last family dinner at Gianna's parents' place before they moved out. I wasn't invited obviously, but Margaret drove by on her way home and said it looked like a wake. She said, you did what you had to do. I said, I know. So now it's just regular life. I guess the group chats are dead. Nobody's posting about it anymore. Everyone's back to arguing about whatever dumb thing is trending. I went to the grocery store and ran into one of Gianna's aunts. She glared at me, then looked away fast. I just kept walking. If you're hoping for some, I feel better now. Ending. Sorry, not there yet. I'm not crushed. I'm not healed. I'm just done. I made sure they felt everything they put me through. I didn't forgive. I didn't forget. And I didn't fix anything for them. I played by the rules. And I hit back harder. Sometimes the best you get is a quiet house and nobody calling you at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll take it. Guess that's it. If you're reading this and you're in some mess like mine, don't let them walk on you. You don't owe anyone your silence or your calm. Sometimes you just burn it all down and walk away.